I'm a blind person that lives alone. I'm starting to think I'm not the only one living in my house. I leave the house. I have my groceries delivered, but I don't cook much. I usually just order takeout. I don't work because of my disability, so I spend every day of my life pretty much reading stories on Reddit. I have this really cool software that reads everything to me, or listening to music or television. Lately, however, strange things have been happening in my home. Being a person without sight, you pretty much have to rely on your other senses more. Smell, touch, hearing, etc. Everything in my home is always in the exact same place. I know my house like the back of my hand. Last week is when it all started. I woke up around 9 a.m. and started my daily routine, use the bathroom, take a shower, brush my teeth. Thing is, when I went for my toothbrush, it wasn't sitting in the charging base, electric toothbrush, like it usually is. This immediately struck me as odd. I distinctly remembered placing it there the night before, and if it had fallen, I would have heard it. I checked all over for it but couldn't find it anywhere. I ended up flossing and rinsing with mouthwash for the time being, puzzled and unnerved about the situation. Later that night, when I went to brush my teeth before bed, I had actually forgotten at this point about the missing toothbrush. I reached for the toothbrush and as soon as my hand touched it, I remembered that it wasn't supposed to be there. My heart skipped a beat, because I knew that this morning it was not there. I knew it. I kinda just blew it off after a while, mostly for my own peace of mind. It had to have been there all along, right? Anyway, I went to bed, not able to completely shake the paranoia creeping into my psyche. The following day everything seemed normal until around 3 p.m. I was sitting at my computer with my headphones on listening to some music when all of a sudden I felt warm breath on the back of my neck. Not only that, but I got a whiff of a bad odor in my nose. I quickly snatched the phones from my ears and spun around in my chair, wildly swinging my hands in the area of the presence that seemed to be just moments before. There was nothing there, but I swear I heard a chuckle on the other side of the room. Was I imagining this? Am I going crazy? Am I reading too many stories on no sleep and they're finally getting to me? I'm not a believer in the supernatural, but I still enjoy a good story about it every now and again. Later that night I was sleeping and was startled awake. You know that feeling when you wake up suddenly, but you don't really know why? You just know that something startled you awake? It was one of those moments. I sat up in bed and just listened intently, but it was eerily quiet. Almost too quiet, actually. But what I did notice was the same smell from earlier, this time accompanied by another smell that I can't really explain. It just wasn't right. I swear I felt a presence. It was as if someone had their face only inches away from mine, just looking at me, taunting me. I quickly raised my hand and swiped it through the air in front of me, but there was nothing there. Then, I could swear I heard the metallic click of my bedroom door closing. I always sleep with my bedroom door closed. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep that night. I know some of you are thinking that by this point I should have called the police, but I honestly thought maybe it was all just my imagination getting the best of me. I didn't want to look like some paranoid blind chick, you know? But something happened last night that changed all that. Around 6 p.m., my doorbell rang. This struck me as strange because no one ever visits me unannounced. Well, no one ever visits me period unless it's someone coming to deliver something. I slowly got up from my couch and made my way to the door, banging my knee on the coffee table that appeared to be about 5 or 6 more inches to the left than it normally is. "Who's there?" I asked, sounding more sheepish than I meant to. An enthusiastic and friendly male voice answered from the other side of the door. "Mario's Takeout, ma'am. I'm delivering the food you ordered." "Mario's Takeout? I've never ordered from Mario's Takeout." I'm sorry but I didn't order any takeout, sir." "I'm sorry ma'am, but I'm pretty sure I have the correct address." He stated my address and home phone number, took the call myself. It was a male voice, maybe your husband? I instantly got goosebumps. Someone had placed a call from my residence and ordered takeout from a place I've never even heard of. Oh, my husband must have forgotten he ordered the food and he just stepped out. I lied. "I'm really sorry but I don't have the money to pay you for it." "That's fine ma'am. I understand. Just know that I'm gonna have to make a note of this and in the future you'll have to pay with a credit card over the phone to avoid another situation like this." "That's fine, and again I'm so sorry about this," I said. "Not a problem. You have a good night." And with that, he left. I didn't hesitate to go straight to the phone to call the police. The only problem was, the phone wasn't in its cradle. Now I know I'm not imagining things. I hadn't used my phone for days, and I knew that I had placed it back in the cradle the last time I used it. That happened last night, and I still haven't found my phone. Things are out of place all around my home, and my toothbrush is missing again. At one point last night I turned over on my side in bed and immediately noticed that same odor and warm breath from before. I froze in fear, and I swear to you I felt a weight slowly lift from the other side of the bed. So, let me begin by answering a few questions and concerns I read in the comments section for my first post. As far as how I was able to write/type my story, I use an awesome software program called Dolphin Guide, which makes using my computer super easy and foolproof. I would recommend it for anyone who is vision impaired. Next, I do not own a cell phone, nor do I have Facebook or any other social media account because, as I stated before, I don't have any friends. As I said, I never leave the house so a cell phone is just not necessary. I developed a phobia of going out in public shortly after I suddenly lost my vision 17 years ago, when I was 12. I was dragged, by my mom, from specialist to specialist until I was 15 to try and get answers for my sudden vision impairment, but we never got any. After that, I never left the house again. I do have neighbors, but they're few and far between. My closest neighbor is approximately, this is a guess, 500 feet away, and our houses are separated by a large mass of trees, so it would be pretty difficult for me to make it over there. Even if they were close by, the only neighbor that my mom and I were acquainted with was Miss Kameshitis, whom would come over and check on me from time to time after my mom passed 5 years ago, but she moved about 2 years ago with her daughter and her family to California when her health began to fail her. I didn't even go to my own mom's funeral because after she died her family had her transported back to Seattle, where she's originally from, for her final resting place. I still haven't gotten over that. As far as getting a dog, I'm very allergic to pet dander. When I was 9 my mom finally gave in to my constant and persistent pleas to get a dog. We had Scout for 3 days before we realized he was making me sick. I was heartbroken when we had to return him to the shelter. So, now that that's out of the way, let me catch you guys up on what has happened over the past couple of days. I searched and searched for my phone until I remembered the page button on the base that makes the handset beep and give you a general idea as to where it's located. I pressed the page button and was relieved when I heard the beeping coming from the kitchen. I made my way into the kitchen and fumbled around, still not able to locate it, although I heard the beeping get louder and louder. I knew I was getting close. Then, the beeping stopped after a minute or so. Frustrated and still on edge, I made my way back over to the base and pressed the page button again. This time, the beeping was coming from an entirely different direction. It was coming from my bedroom. I stood there frozen for what seemed like 10 minutes, although I'm pretty sure it wasn't that long, confused. Then, I heard it. Laughter. Not a quiet chuckle or a muffled giggle. Full-blown laughter. My heart sank. Someone was taunting me, playing a messed-up game of cat and mouse. "W, who's there?" I asked in a soft, shaky voice. The laughter continued, got louder even. "Please, who's there? W, what do you want, please?" I began sobbing at this point. You have no idea how it feels to know that someone is invading your space and there's nothing you can do because you can't even see where or who they are, if they're standing right in front of you, just watching, stalking. It got eerily quiet, but I could feel a presence slowly approaching. Suddenly, I could smell the bad odor from before and I could feel the warm breath on my face. I visibly shuddered. "Don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you," came a soft and low, yet masculine voice. I nearly jumped out of my skin when I finally heard the intruder speak. Now, I knew for sure I wasn't alone. How long had he been there, stalking me? "Why are you here?" I asked in a shaky whisper. "I'm here to protect you?" Then I felt his cold, rough hand on my wet cheek. He slowly caressed it. I gasped and pulled away. "Protect me from what?" I asked. "You're too beautiful and vulnerable to be alone, in your condition. I love you. I don't want to see you harmed." At this point, I knew I was dealing with someone with serious mental issues. I also began to realize that his voice, although it sounded as if he were trying to disguise it, sounded vaguely familiar. I just couldn't put my finger on it. It had to be one of my delivery guys, which would narrow it down quite a bit. "Please, I don't need protection," I said feebly. He scoffed. "You don't need protection? You live here alone and you're fucking blind." He suddenly sounded angry. "You don't even have an alarm system. Do you know how easy it was for me to get in here? You're lucky it was me and not some fucking psycho nut job." He began to yell. I almost laughed at his last statement if I weren't so afraid. I wanted to say, apparently I need protection from the psycho nut job that's standing in my home uninvited. His voice became calm again. "I've been here watching over you for a while now. 27 days to be exact." I was shocked to hear this. "I only started noticing signs about a week ago. You're such a sound sleeper. I've slept beside you every night and you didn't have a clue. You snore a little too." He snorted, chuckled. "Don't be embarrassed. It's cute." He began to stroke my cheek again, then he took my hand. "Come on. Let's sit, talk." He led me over to the couch and we sat. I sat stiff as a board, still sobbing and shaking. He placed his hand on my knee, his attempt at putting me at ease. It made me tense up even more. The only things running through my head were possible ways to escape this maniac. My disability was going to make that very difficult. I liked the little story you wrote about me to your cyber friends. It was very intriguing. It made me feel special. And the way you said the words and they just came up on the screen, like magic, he chuckled. "What are you going to do to me?" I finally asked. "I told you, I'm only here to protect you. You know, about a month ago, just before I broke in, I probably saved your life." "What?" I asked, confused. "Well, I had been sitting outside your house for about a week at that point. After I made my first delivery to you, I became, I guess the best word to use would be, smitten, over you. You were so beautiful, yet so vulnerable. I felt like it was my mission to protect you. I knew it. I knew it was one of the delivery guys. At this point, I believed I knew which one, but I wasn't absolutely sure. I just listened." He continued. "So, I was sitting in front of your house in my car and I noticed some movement. I saw someone come from the trees and go to the back of your house. I got out of my car and quietly made my way around back, where I noticed a person dressed in all black trying to break into your window. I yelled hey, and scared the crap out of him." He laughed as he recalled how frightened the would-be intruder had become. As he told the story, I remembered that very night. I thought I had heard someone tampering with my window, but wasn't sure. I listened intently, then I didn't hear it anymore, so I figured it was just my imagination. Hearing his story gave me goosebumps. He ran so fast he tripped a couple of times and fell. I just stood there laughing. Some punk neighborhood teen probably. Anyway, that's when I realized you needed protection at all times, so I've been here ever since, protecting you. "But, who are you?" I asked. "Can you at least tell me your name?" "I'm Xander." As soon as he said his name, I got a chill down my spine. I remembered him. He was the delivery guy from the company that delivers my groceries once a week. He only delivered to me twice, but I remembered him giving me an uneasy feeling the second time he made a delivery. He was overly nice and offered to put my groceries away for me. I remembered him telling me how attractive I was and that I should have a man around the house, and that I shouldn't be living here alone. He hung around much longer than he should have before I finally told him that I had company coming soon, a lie of course, to get rid of him. I called the company later in the week and asked if they could send the regular delivery guy from now on, and when they asked me if there was a problem with Xander, which is how I got his name, I simply told them that I just liked familiarity because of my impairment, and they understood. I really didn't want to get him into trouble. I just assumed he had good intentions but just expressed them in the wrong way. I was really kicking myself for not thinking of him before, but I had honestly forgotten about that incident until he said his name. "You remember me, don't you?" he asked. I just nodded. "I knew you would." He began to stroke my hair. I cringed. The touch of him repulsed me. I could smell his putrid breath and I wanted to throw up. I was in a helpless position. What was I supposed to do? How was I supposed to get away from this stalker who was taking advantage of my disability? Then, I had a plan. Please bear with me, guys. I've been through a lot and this post is already pretty long. I will give you all the details on how I got rid of that creepy bastard as soon as I can update again. Right now I'm exhausted and I need some rest. Bye for now. Thank you all for your concern and great advice.